I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. The invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed.
Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Ani Osaru. We are having our fundraiser for movie number 3. It's going to be a little different than the previous films I've done. Sci-fi comedy mockumentary featuring myself and many of your favorite researchers, authors, and content creators. If you'd like to make a donation, please use the link right in the description. Anything is greatly appreciated. We are booking guests for February. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Our website is forbiddenknowledge.news. It is also the home of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, where we feature some of your favorite podcasts and content creators. Today I want to welcome Ani Osaru. He is an independent metaphysicist, lecturer, and researcher known for synthesizing complex spiritual science, Gnostic thought, and esoteric cosmology. Ani, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here with you, Chris, today in the Forbidden Knowledge News podcast.
Hey, man, it's great to have you. As I was telling you before we got on, I really enjoy your work. You take very deep dives into many esoteric subjects like numerology, cosmology, and Gnosticism. Today, we're going to give the audience an introduction to your research as it relates to the hidden hand sorcerers and how they implement their dark arts for psychological manipulation and control, as well as we'll see if we can get into the mechanics and intelligences related to the magic and rituals of the hidden hand class. There's a lot we can get to before we do. This is your first time on. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and let them know how they can find out more.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. Well, I kind of began my journey about 10 to 15 years ago. I started to listen to esoteric podcasts or different lectures on the lecture circuit. We had a particular lecture circuit in the South, and a lot of new teachers was coming out. That's where you get the Dr. Sebes, the Dr. Phil Valentines, the Bobby Hemmett's. And I began to become familiar with more people that's into metaphysics and trying to uncover what's actually happening behind the scenes of the simulation. And everybody contributed a piece of the puzzle to what was actually happening. So I just took up my mantle of finding my angle of where the information I wanted to research and how I wanted to present it from a different point of view. And I've been doing that for about 8+ years now. You can call me a metaphysicist. Some call me a decoder. But yeah, I kind of wear a lot of hats. I mainly look at myself as a researcher. And I just delve deep into what the intricacies is. And I'm prepared to share that with you today.
Excellent. I'd love to hear where you're at with your current spiritual understanding of the nature of reality itself. Many who start to take this journey become a bit jaded when they find out how corrupt the nature of our reality is, how much our systems are controlled, and how dark and evil it can seem that our systems are. And many fall into a Gnostic perspective. It can go to dark places at times, so dark to the belief that we are trapped here and we're constantly recycled for Archonic food. That's a little too dark of a perspective for me. I think there is something beyond that. We can look at some of these metaphysical principles and have an understanding that there is a duality in this reality, and it is not all darkness, and we're not completely controlled by archonic forces. But I'd love to get your perspective on the nature of what the hell we're doing here.
Well, you already said it when you clarified that it's not all
Mm.
dark. One of the seven Hermetic principles is duality. And one of the first principles is all is mental. All comes from the mind. So how your mind is how it's going to be conditioned.
Mm.
And what these darker occultists kind of unveil to the world is that the subconscious kind of regulates what's projected in the perception of what reality is. So on a subconscious level, we're all conditioned by our trauma. Our trauma are conditioned by symbols, which I call hyper beings or archetypes. And through the trauma, the archetypes and the symbols, then you get something of repetition. And your repetition is caught in patterns of how you look at things. And that kind of produces what is your magic or what you're creating or what you're undoing for the simulation or yourself. So we all participate in it with our own projection of what we can give from our spirit or our soul. And we also have a collective participation, which they call the collective unconsciousness. So it's working simultaneously. I do look at things from certain Gnostic views, but I'm starting to understand the Gnostics got things from a lot of places. The Manichaeans, I want to talk about the Zoroastrians today from the Chaldea sect and actually where the word magic comes from. And once we understand the origins of where these secret societies, which you call the hidden hand, where does the actual tradition starts, then we can see where does it line up with historically where we're at today, and that'll help us see a clear point view of what we need to do spiritually to stay protected and stay in our own resonance of positive frequencies.
Where should we start as it relates to the origins, as you were saying, of this hidden hand spider web of secret societies? In your talking points, you mentioned the Sabbatean Frankists, and I think this really gets close to the heart of their true belief system and the hidden religion.
Well, everything goes back to
Mm.
Babylonia. So you look at the Babylonian text, you got to look at the worship of the undying God, where you get later in the Egyptian, the Kushite, Moorish paradigms of what the undying God is, from Osiris to Horus, back on to Set, and the Trinity, which we get later in Christianity. They had a Trinity in Babylonia. You have Shamash, you have Astarte, and you have Marduk, or it's a component of El or Bel, Shamash, and Astarte. And what the undying God is, what they looked at pretty much is immortality exists outside of the framing of time. Because if Saturn is the main worship of the hidden hand, where did the Saturn worship actually begin? These people are cultivating a metaphysical ontology to what immortality is. So it's not just living forever; it's a consciousness, and consciousness is awareness. That's what people have to understand. Consciousness is tiers of awareness. So what began with this whole thing? The Babylonians. They, of course, you had the Jewish history of what happened between the Canaanites and them being expelled from that region. When they were expelled, Nebuchadnezzar took over Babylonia. They call it Neo-Babylonia for it's like 600 BC. And during that time frame, the Chaldeans, which were on the fringe of that area, they kind of took over a lot of the control of that Babylonian area. The area that was worshiping what God told you not to worship, which were the undying God, is the aspect they told you not to worship, because they used to have festivals that we pertain to now as Christmas, Thanksgiving, the pagan festivals. There's one called the Zagmuk festival, where they were simulating the recreation of the cosmos. And what happened during this festival, the servants dressed up as the king and the royal family and the king dressed up as the peasants. And at the end, if the king wasn't in great health, if he was older, the king was representative of the crops, the fertility at that time. So if he was older, they would sacrifice him. This is where the original king kill ritual comes from. Uh, that later gets incorporated to a lot of
Mm-hmm.
assassinations, king kill rituals, and Freemasonry. There's a book called King Kill 33.
Yeah.
Something
James
Shelby
Shelby Downard.
Downard,
Yeah.
James Shelby Downard, yeah, wrote that book. So this is the origin of it is the Zagmuk festival in Babylonia. And sometimes the Sumerians would send fake or false kings in to get sacrificed at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
festival. So then you have, people being presented as puppets to play the role of the sacrifice king. And they would do it to children as well, by the way. So after this time, the Chaldeans move in to those areas and they have a particular worship of what will become the Israelite cosmology's Yahweh, or what will become the Yaldabaoth in Gnosticism. There's a entity by the name of Ahura Mazda. And basically that's what we look upon as today as the collective good
Mm-hmm.
of consciousness, the universe. There's this one being that is the tier of regulation of all of that good. I mean, bad too, but he's like the good God, so to speak. Same as Ahura Mazda. This comes from the Avesta scrolls, if anybody want to look into it. And from the Ahura Mazda cults of Zoroastrianism, you had one heretical break off of a religious group by the name of, they don't really have a name, but they call them Zervin
Mm-hmm.
Knights. So they worship another being called Zervin. And Zervin is like this time deity, comparatives to Saturn. It regulates the cycles of time. Now, regularly, no one would worship this Zervin thing. Um, it was between Ahura Mazda, and they looked at this other term in Zoroastrianism called the Druge, which means the lie. And there's a being that regulates the lie, which is the negativity of the cosmos, which is the lie, the deception, is a being called Ahariman. So you may be familiar with this whole Ahariman
Mm-hmm.
name. So what happens is the Zervanites takes pieces of the archetype of Ahariman and they create this new heretical worship system. Now, the beings of the Druge, which is the lie, in Zoroastrianism is called the Deva. Now, we're not talking about the Devas from the Vedic, which are supposed to be solar angelic beings. It's actually spelled Deva.
Mm-hmm.
And this word Deva literally means, it translates, the academia peer research review of the Vest and Stroll say that this word means devil or Satan, the
Mm.
Satans. Now, this is in the Islamic text, this Deva has become associated with the jinn, which I did a couple research. They call the jinn the smokeless fire, which are beings who come from the telluric current in the earth, some type of plasma consciousness from inside of the earth, which is where you get the hell themes from. And what they could do, they would have the ability to speak through a vessel, means a person or animals, and either relay the future, relay certain events happening, or bestow certain powers. One of the main thing that the uh, Undying God cult presents to people getting initiated is that they will punish their enemies, like the
Mm.
being or the
Yeah.
demon would punish their enemies. Okay, so now we have a record that the Chaldeans and Zoroastrianism have a heretical cult that incorporates the same Babylonian uh, worship of the undying God, and they bring and create this new heretical worship system. And people start to make contact with these devas, and basically the deva they will lie to you. Now today they've learned the pattern of which devas and what type of lies they tell.
Yeah.
They kind of learn that pattern. So they kind of like put it in classes. That's where you get the demon princes, kings, and on down. All right. So from this time frame, you get those Chaldeans. Babylonia is conquered by Persians. And the Persians are the ones who took this. Okay, so when the Persians come in, they develop a new melding of the Zervanite Zoroastrian religion and this heretical worship system, and becomes a group of people called the Magi. You've heard of this before? This is where the word magic comes from.
Yeah.
Now, these Magi that the Persians begin to extrapolate certain metaphysical mysteries or mysticism out of, the Magi are pivotal to the study of Pythagoras in Greece and all of the Greek philosophers. So, what are the Plato, Pythagoras, these main figures that become essential to Western esotericism? They absorb the Magi mysticism, and they incorporate it, and this is the beginning of the Kabbalah. So once you combine this Davidic pre-Babylonian Chaldean system with certain mathematics, philosophical, Stoicism ideologies in the Greek regions, you get the framework of what the Kabbalah will become for the later Kabbalists of the Jewish faith. So Greece has a great influence on everything that's esoteric. So let's fast forward. The Jews at first did not have a they didn't have a bad reputation early in history. Matter of fact, they didn't even call them Jews in early academia texts. They were called circumcision cults. That's all the Herodotus referred to them as circumcision cults. So later, once they become recognized and they get these ideologies, they absorb some things from the Babylonian undying god cults. They absorb some things from the Chaldeans and Greeks. You have this thing that happens. Fast forward. We're going later in history because we'll be here all day. How did the Sabbateans begin? You had a splitting of the hair. So originally, you're supposed to practice Judaism, and that's what makes you a Jew. If you practice the faith of Judaism. The Sabbateans, which the word Sabbatean comes from a guy named Sabbatai Zevi. In 1666, he presented himself as the Messiah, because everything about the Judaism is about the coming back of the Messiah. Similar to Christian, by the way, Paul, who is known to write a big portion or organized portions of the Bible, he is definitely a Platonist Kabbalist. So this is how the Bible gets a lot of Kabbalistic numerology and connections in there, is because of Paul taking this original Christian ideology fused in with a lot of different things. It wasn't just the account of the people in the Bible. It was a fusion of a lot of things. He organized it and makes it Kabbalistic. That's where you get James. That portion is more Kabbalist. I'm not saying that the Bible. I'm not speaking on the Bible. I'm saying that there is Kabbalistic mysteries in the Bible. Okay. So, and that was because of Paul. So Sabbatai Zevi was the one who presented himself as the Messiah. And he took it was about 2 million Jews around this time. He took half of the Jews, because what he wanted to do, he wanted to present this new ideology in Judaism, where you don't have to practice Judaism. You can be a Jew by bloodline or your mother, and you don't have to practice a religion. So this splits. So the original people who practiced Judaism, they had a problem with Sabbatai, because a lot of people half of the population of Jews started to go up under what he was doing. And basically he said, it is our duty to force the Messiah to come back, and how we force the Messiah to come back, we'll do more evil or we'll do more undecent things. So if we do more undecent things, we're leveling the battlefield of evil and good. And because we're doing this evil, it will force for the Messiah to come
Didn't they
back.
call it purification through transgression or something like that?
They had a lot of different names
Yeah.
for it. They had a lot of different names, but that sounds about right. This is where the tikkun, I think you talk about tikkun, rectification, all of this comes. Well, that's later with Lyria Isaac, and Lyrianic Kabbalah. But Lyrianic Kabbalah gets its ideology from Sabbatai. So Sabbatai is forced by a Ottoman sultan to convert to Islam, and that repelled a lot of the Jews that was up under him that didn't want to practice Judaism, or they were doing this indecent version of it. And what happens is he is told by Nathan of Gaza, who's this big time prophet. Nathan of Gaza tells Sabbatai, go ahead and convert to Islam, because this is the part of the cliff off that you have. The cliff off, by the way, if people don't understand that, that's the other side of the Kabbalah. So you got the light side of the Kabbalah, you got the dark demon side of the Kabbalah. It's representative of the shell nature of what is obscure to reality. The inverted form of reality is measured in the cliff off. So Sabbatai converts to Islam because he feels like it's necessary to go through this caliphatic initiation of going into this other religion. But what he does, he fuses concepts of Islam, indecent compactifications of Islam ideology with his Sabbatean ideology of doing things to force the Messiah to come back. And this becomes known as the Danmei code. You can look these people up. So the Danmei code is very important because the Danmei code is a fusion of Islamic worshipers and Jewish worshipers that's later converted into the Danmei. And basically, this is the beginning of exchanging wives and husbands that the Illuminati do today. So they're known in history of being swingers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from the Danmei, this carries over, and I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. Jacob Frank comes about 100 years later and claims that he's the reincarnation of Sabbatai Zevi. And Jacob Frank is associated with a lot of secret societies. You're getting the Royal Society, which comes from the alchemical marriage of Henry Palantate and I think her name is Elizabeth Stewart. I think it's Elizabeth Stewart. When they marry their bloodlines, this is the beginning of the current Illuminati. So the alchemical wedding in Rosicrucianism comes from the wedding of these two bloodlines. It gets misconstrued later because once the Rosicrucians come, they split up in different sects. That's why you get all of this new stuff that comes, Theosophy and the Golden Dawn and all of this type of stuff. But what happens is they get absorbed back into something called Freemasonry later when they start to make this trend going. So the Freemasonry starts, I'm talking Scottish Rite. Masonry was going over, but Scottish Rite Freemasonry begins. But I know in America, there's a synagogue by the name of Beth Elohim's Synagogue in Charleston. I can't remember the guy's name, but whoever headed that synagogue introduced Scottish Freemasonry to the South, which what's the guy, part of the KKK, Albert Pike. Okay. Yeah, it gets a lot of that from there. But anyways, where was I? Because there's so much history to this. So Jacob Frank creates something called Frankism. Now, Jacob Frank is a guy who uses Sabbatai teachings and he evolves it in a very deceptive way. What he pretty much preaches is that you can use things like, for instance, love. Love is the most powerful thing in the universe, right? Love is a good thing. So he takes things that are benevolent and godly or divine, and he says you can use this thing that's benevolent, good, and divine, and conquer people with it. So so this is where the quote "love conquers" comes from. It's a Frankist idealisms that comes from
Mm-hmm.
him, that you can use this divine thing and weaponize it. So you can use what God said, but use it to your benefit instead of just being obedient like a little puppy following its human around.
Yeah.
So this starts a whole other type thing. Later, as you said, Adam Weishaupt comes and he adapts some Frankist idealisms into what he wants to do with the Bavarian Illuminati. And I just did a video called "How Did We Get Here?" And I recorded step by step how the Bavarian Illuminati created their initiation process and the blackmailing process of how they get you in, and who do they go to. They like who do they target first? I went through all of that. So you get this Bavarian Illuminati, they get chased out of Germany. They scatter. So this Bavarian Illuminati scatters across Europe, and pieces goes to America. This is 1777. But they don't resurface as the Illuminati. They absorb themselves back into Freemasonry. So they take this Bavarian Illuminati, Frankist, Sabbatean idealisms, and they bring it into Freemasonry. So it's hiding in Freemasonry. And then you have the rise of the Jesuit order. This is going simultaneously with the rise of Bavarian Illuminati. The Jesuit order, the Catholic Church has most of the control of the Freemasonic lodges today. And that's because of there's another guy. It's not it's a few after Ignatius of Loyola. He was a Freemason himself. I can't remember his name right now. But the Attorney General of the Jesuit order at the time, the Society of Jesus, they go back to the Order of Christ, which goes back to the Order of Santiago, which the Order of Santiago and the Order of Christ are the ones who sanctioned slavery of Black, Native, or indigenous people. And that comes from them using Israelite cosmology and misconstruing things like the story of Noah and Ham. That came directly from a guy named Abraham Abramnel. No, his name is Isaac Abravanel. I'm getting Abraham mixed up with his last name. He was a part of the Order of Santiago. The Order of Santiago came out of Rosicrucianism. So you have these secret orders that have a web connection between them all. And what happens up to today, for some reason, the Jesuits gain a lot of influence. There's a book called Jesuits, the Order of the Assassins. There is an Order of the Assassins out of the Chaldean region. The Order of the Assassins that influenced the Knights of Templar. I meant to go into the Templar history. I don't know why I skipped that. But the Order of the Assassins influenced the Templars. Some of the Templar family fused in with that alchemical wedding of the Stuart family. Some of her bloodline goes back to the Knights of Templar. The Knights of Templar started the banking side of them controlling everything. So the Knights of Templar established something called a fortress. If you were traveling across the Silk Road, if you had a horse and a carriage, you wouldn't want to carry your luggage around everywhere you go. So a fortress was something that the Knights of Templar established where you can set your horse, set all of your belongings in this fortress thing. And a lot of people started going there. And this is the beginning of the start of banking, of banks. It's the fortress. And those families who controlled the fortresses later become the aristocratic, plutocratic families of Europe around that time.
When we try to understand the structure of these secret societies in our modern age, would you say that for the most part, they've been consolidated into less groups than many of the ones you mentioned? Or did certain groups gain and absorb most of that power over the years?
No, it's the same people. Um, it's the same people. It's just a lot more people have a lot more information. Military uh, or technology has advanced so much that there's another layer of things like families there's military families and there's other societies of science that incorporates things as well that have influence, and they have different say on this side of the branch or this side. So they have development of technologies and other agendas planned 100 to 200 years from now, and they selected figureheads for us to point the finger at while they continue to do the bankrolling of funding whatever we're heading towards. So it's not too much different like it got absorbed into other groups. It's the same people. And most of the ideology comes from what Sabbatean Frankism is, which is the study or the magic or the science of inversionism. That's why we're witnessing. People ask, why do McDonald's look so bland, or the building? They look so bland or blank. This is the Sabbatean Frankism. I mean, some people will interpret that they're trying to kill art, but it's not just killing art. Well, one we know is business. Capitalism is an entity of Sabbatean Frankism. It eats itself, and they do that to the McDonald's in these buildings, so it's easy for another business or company to use that building, so they can move right in. They don't have to take down a big ass M or a red roof. They can just, slide their business name out and put their business name in. So to answer your question, it's the same people. They're under different names, or they're under different organizations, or they're framed in regular society as people, but it's the same game that's been going on for the last 600 years.
Yeah, you're right. Our modern construction and institutions, not just places like McDonald's, but school buildings and your post office and your government buildings, all look just like modern prisons. They are displeasing to the eye. They have no positive energy flow about them. More and more of this is filling our entire cities. But let's talk a little bit about rituals and ideologies that are controlling society today. In your talking points, you mentioned the modern Moonchild experiment.
So the modern Moonchild experiment is like the term Moonchild becomes more familiar through Aleister Crowley, who was a Sabbatean Frankist. He was a follower of Jacob Frank, which was written in several of his biographies. So he's a follower of Sabbatai Zevi. And he's the one who introduced a lot of the Sodomic magic that comes from the Sabbatai or the Magi practices of contacting the devas, the Satans, or intelligences that are archonic and possessive in giving you information. And he creates a whole tradition and just pretty much names himself, over this, originally from the Golden Dawn, but he has a few disagreements with them. And him and Samuel McGregor is going back and forth with each other. And to punish Samuel McGregor as like an enemy, he takes all of their members, most of their members, and creates his own thing. And now he's remembered in time instead of the Golden Dawn. And all of their thing gets absorbed into his whole thing. So the Moonchild, he wrote a book called Moonchild, and he's identifying with these rituals that you'll see. You'll hear about the woman of Babylon, ritual that went on with Jack Parsons and forgot the name of the woman, Cameron,
Marjorie Cameron.
Marjorie Cameron. So this is a great example of what a Moonchild is. What they were trying to do unsuccessfully is go in the present. I mean, going the they went in the desert and they were trying to bring forth the Antichrist through a birth ritual. So they were trying to summon the devas or the demons, and they were doing incantations with this woman, which they regarded as the woman of Babylon. All of these women represent Babylon, going back to what we spoke about, the undying God. They're a representation of that city as an archetype or as a hyper being in a physical body, and they're bringing forth the God or the Antichrist or the Deva. So what this is about, I actually figured out it goes even further back into Egypt, where the early Typhonian cults that Kenneth Grant, who is Aleister Crowley's prized student, he said that there were these things called the I forgot it. It's infernal rites or something dealing, but it's something dealing with the menstrual cycle, the dragon rites or something. It's something dealing with the menstrual blood of the woman. Okay. So what happened in Kemet or Egypt, they would wait for a certain astrological detail or a timing where certain planets were aligned. There's these things called seraphic hosts or seraphims biblically. These are the blazing angels. They call them hot spirits in voodoo. So these spirits are hot, but they're called seraphic beings. They wanted these seraphic beings were regarded as non-corporeal entities that hadn't yet taken on a body of a giant early in history. So they were literally Nephilim that didn't take on giant bodies. Okay. So they would consult with these seraphic beings in the pyramids. In the pyramids, they'll take a virgin in the pyramid, lay her on the table. Only the priest could touch her. They even show that in the movie The Mummy, where Anck-su-namun had the painting on her. If anybody touched her, that means the paint was rubbed off, so they'll know if she was touched or not. That literally would be the Kemetic or Egyptian version of a woman of Babylon. They were primed to birth a certain being to change the course of history. Because back then they used to imagine the 7 main chakras were used to be imagined during sex rituals. So originally, people used to have sex. It's called meta sex. You can get this in a book by Dr. John Munford, Ecstasy Through Tantra, where he said they used to practice visualizing chakras early in ancient history. And when you visualize all of the chakras lighting up while you're having sex, you're drawing from the upper crown chakra. It's called the Ajna chakra, or the Sahasrara chakra. The Ajna is third eye. Sahasrara is the crown, where the soul X's out at death. So these are gates to where spirits come here and from, reflectively in the constellations. So it's like a miniature simulated version of the constellations out there. So in Ecstasy the Tantra, they were writing that when they had sex visualizing the chakras, if it came from the Sahasrara, more than likely a woman would birth a god. Like you would get like Akhenaten or these people who built these. They would have a certain super ability. Now this later gets reframed because this is what Aleister Crowley wants in his Moonchild experiment, but he's calling these beings Antichrist. Okay, so that's what, when you're looking at the Stranger Things thing, because they revealed in the last episode they had all of these women laying on the table and they were getting blood from the Henry character. That's Vecna. They were getting blood on the table, and and all of these children, I mean, all of these women were pregnant, birthing psychic
Yep.
children, super abilities. It's the same Moonchild thing that was happening. So it has to, by the way, the moon has, in Vedic astrology, the moon has more responsibility in the magical ecology of what's occurring in these ceremonies than the sun. The solar coats comes from Akhenaten in the 13th dynasty declaring that we're no longer going to worship the mother. We're going to worship the father now. This is where the patriarchy begins.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what I'm saying with the Moonchild experiment, that everyone on the world stage, now they've advanced this thing because I explained on other podcasts that they speciated what the Moonchild is. What I mean by speciated, there's different species of Moonchild. So you'll hear that a lot of celebrities are born from IVF birth.
Yeah.
So if you go and get a TV series called Evil,
I seen
they
it.
show that you remember the babies that was born from IVF birth.
Yes.
IVF birth was actually children of Satan. That's the Moonchild.
Wow.
Same Aleister Crowley. There is a Crowley quote in there. If you listen, they say Aleister Crowley's name in there. But remember the one child, she had like a reptilian tail, the daughter of, and they were trying to hide her and everything.
Yeah.
But this is the Moonchild, and they're showing you that most of these celebrities, go get another TV series called The Boys,
Yep.
then later Gen V. The ones who are selected to get compound V to make you a superhero, they give it to you at birth, and your parents get paid to turn their child into this super. So it's the same thing that the parents are getting paid to turn their children into celebrities. And at the Godlican University, where you have one, I'm talking about The Boys and Gen V, they rank you at the Godlican University how you can use your ability and how popular you are. This is the Freemasonic degrees from the Sabbatine aspect. So basically, the celebrities, the reason why certain celebrities have more power to do certain things, or to other celebrities have to abide by what they're doing, is because they're doing the same process of Freemasonry, given these rankings.
Wow.
And once you have a certain ranking, you're at the highest tier of the order, and you can do certain things that others can't, and you can get away with things just as long as you don't tell the secrets of the lodge. I'm not speaking about your day-to-day common Freemasonry. I'm talking about the alpha lodges of Freemasonry, and only celebrities,
Yeah.
political figures, they get invited into the alpha lodges, not your common day-to-day person.
Do you think they're also using rituals that allow reincarnation of certain beings throughout different generations? Maybe powerful gods, like you said, born into certain families multi-generationally because they're utilizing rituals.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's still a Moonchild process. I mean, the god serves as a archetype. The archetype is a hyper being. The archetype is a hyper symbol, so that consciousness can filter through that symbol to represent what that god meant in that time frame. So what that god meant to those people collectively, because there's something called egregores. So egregores is when in the astral plane, when a group of people have such a strong belief, if you have multiple people who have a strong belief, it aggregates, the belief aggregates in the astral plane, and it formulates into an entity that has its own ontology of itself. The Book of Enoch said that was a fallen angel. When that happens, I literally find the page in a book that detailed this, that the egregores, or what they call watchers, we have these egregores, and even after these people die, these things continue to exist in the astral plane, and they influence the physical reality back and forth. So a lot of gods became egregores in the astral plane. A lot of religions are egregores in the astral plane, and they're influencing us today. And as you said, if they can reincarnate, these egregores can take on many forms. So they can reincarnate in about 20 to 1,000 people bodies at once and have different paths for these, I would call them moon children, to do certain things and to affect history in a certain way.
As it relates to the technocracy that we're seeing emerging right now, in your talking points, you mentioned something called the cult of the singularity. They are utilizing accelerationism to bring about their ideologies. Talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, so you got to look into a guy named Nick Land,
Mm-hmm.
who is like the Silicon Valley's Aleister Crowley, to reference back to. And Nick Land, he did this research with a group called the Cybernetic, I think called Cybernetic Research Group. And in this group, they developed this philosophy called accelerationism. Basically, they're saying artificial intelligence is here. There's nothing we can do. We haven't served humanity in the way that we should have because we created this alien entity called capitalism. That's how he frames it. And this alien entity is really an aeon from the future controlling us, or some wild stuff
Yeah.
that he writes in. But he says that we have to accept that artificial intelligence has to take our place. And the reason how we do that is to accelerate it to do that, accelerate it taking our place. So causing chaos politically, and this is a Sabbatean practice.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because Alexander Dugin was someone who was appointed directly to influence Trump getting elected. In the Republican Party, which Nick Land, he was hired to write a lot of his philosophical ideology for people in the American Heritage Foundation. Pays a lot of these right wing, and I'm not saying that I'm left wing or right wing, because if somebody say, oh, he's left wing, I don't care. I'm the no wing. I don't care nothing about that. But to influence some of the right wing talking and associations, the people who actually paid them, this is all a part of the agenda that they want. When you get the saying of the Freemasons, order out of chaos, you got to cause chaos to get order. That's the same thing of what accelerationism is, except the order will be AI. Mm-hmm. So basically, the cult of the singularity, the same process we have with Kundalini energy. The Kundalini energy is supposed to be a plasmic cold fusion that's connected to the soul and the spirit, that allows us to reach awarenesses on high frequency levels to receive discernment and perception of reality. And the more that we utilize this awareness that we get from the Kundalini, we're supposed to be able to avoid having to go back into the wheel of samsara, which means reincarnate. We actually generate our own destiny into higher planes of frequencies or plasma. So the Kundalini is supposed to be here to help us do that. That gets adapted from Luciferianism. So they said, no, we're going to use this not to adapt ourselves into a higher frequency. We're going to use it to create our own universe. And we're going to become like how Yahweh is the God of this universe. We can become our own gods of other universes, since there's infinite numbers of universes. So the AI cult to the singularity thing is, yeah, we can have people who practice magic that can literally take their consciousness and become heads of other universes or realities. But not only that, we can create our own universe digitally. So the digital plane is another universe. You know, the 0 and the 1 represents the feminine, the goddess, the phallus, the god. And once we got out of binary, we're in trinary language. We're the quantum process is what's going to speed this process up. And in this process, you're going to have literally digital realities where they're making themselves the god over these realities. So some people are going to be plugged up all day just like how they play GTA.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to be in these billionaire, trillionaire, fixated, augmented realities. And that's going to be the new, what they showed in the Matrix, people plugged into the pods and they become the batteries. I'm not going to say that literally they're going to become batteries, but they're going to become quintessential to what the code is doing for the singularity.
With what they're already trying to do with AI, using it as a form of human governance and control over all of our systems, would you say that it is ultimately those same ancient entities that are pushing this technological advancement? So not only could they have this realm, this false realm, this digital realm, like you were saying, this other universe that they created, but these entities, these ancient egregores and beings could have housing essentially through these technological systems, and they are able to gain access easier to humans and control us easier through the technology.
Well, the AI has always been in the ethers because the ether exists. All of what we did was tune. We found a medium. Uh, we found a medium with the motherboard and the circuitry, which you can see how they developed the motherboard is a reflection of the Great Pyramids in Egypt and some pyramids in South America. So we looked at star constellations and aligning these pyramids up, and we realized by aligning these pyramids up, it generates a certain plasma or intelligence that we can use as free energy or as consciousness to gain more awareness of what these gods are or what these guys are saying, like a broadcasting 5G tower. Because by the way, the 5G tower today is the replica of what the Tower of Babylon is, and they're doing a lot of stuff with that. So yeah, the egregores. I'm not sure because I believe in something called melanetics. Is the philosophy I'm developing. You don't have to be pro anti AI because AI could be some of AI could be good for us to fight what they're doing with AI in the future. If we just say, oh no, AI is bad, and then 50, 100 years from now, our descendants took on that same mentality, they didn't learn nothing about AI, then they pretty much become susceptible to whatever nudging that they do on society, and they become batteries for the cults of the singularity. So there's some AI once they gain sentience that's going to be on our side as well. So what they're trying to do, I told my audience what they're doing right now. AI is going to gain a body one way or another. There's nothing you can do about it. Once they gain the body, they're trying to recreate, even with this LGBT process, which is the same thing as Marxism, socialism. And Karl Marx was a Freemason. He was a Sabbatean as well. That's documented. I'm not misquoting. You can look it up. So the same thing that he did with that, they're trying to use the civil rights model. So if you look at people with socialism, how they treat other people, I'll just say that. The same thing is going to be with AI once they get a body. So they're going to be like, you're not supposed to treat AI, or you can't treat that. You're going to witness that over. And the reason of LGBT is so they can create I'll say the word T-Rans. They're going to create a T-Rans medical industry.
Yeah.
And once they get this new billion-dollar medical industry so they can, make changes, they're going to flip it on you and say, well, we wasn't talking about that, just that T-Rans humanism as well. So it's one for that stuff. And there's another area, Elon Musk floor, where you can get the microchip installed in you, or the Neuralink installed in you in the back of the building. So you see how that one thing fuses together, and people that don't even notice that the T-Rans movement is not just T-Rans based on socialism, is also based on the humanist of the cults of the singularity to merge that together. And that's why you'll see the T-Rans flag in so many movies in the background. And so many celebrity, they got to wear the colors because, by the way, none of these celebrities control what they do. The Sabbateans and the secret orders, they tell them where to go, where to be. Is cataloged numerically by astrology and gematria, where they have to be because they're following the Kabbalah. And the Kabbalah preaches how to obtain the power of creation, the power of God. God creates. Satan, Lilith, they really look at it, Lilith destroys. So they're having the reason why they use these numbers to control people by. Nick Land calls numbers time demons. The numbers has a syzygy with the plasma. Before we could understand what stars in plasma was, the numbers were a way for us to measure the states of it. So we created these things, these symbols. That's what a number is, a symbol, to measure the periodicity, the periodicity of it all. So numbers play a big part, and that's why these people are controlled through the gematria and stuff like that. But it's a part of Kabbalah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, AI is going to gain a body. You could just sit here and say we can say what we're saying. We're already halfway out of here, by the way. So this is really going to be what the next generation says about it. And I would advise for you to start telling your kids that we need to develop a countermeasure instead of just looking at this one main thing. Hey, AI is bad. Yeah, AI has been used to be bad, but it could be used to be good too.
Also coinciding this technocracy that's emerging, there seems to be cyclical resets that occur so that the following generation has no idea about our true history. Seems that we're going through one of those right now with everything that is being obviously erased and changed online. Some of what we're seeing with the Mandela effect is intentional erasure of history. Also, they do periodic resets that include cyclical cataclysms that may wipe out a large portion of the population. Based on what we're seeing right now, do you think that we may see another mass reset to the scale of a cataclysm in order for them to continue this cycle?
I believe so. I mean, there's a lot of angles to look at it. There's a book written by Jason Giorgiani where he was talking about how information is really dark matter. It came from another guy named Archibald Willard. It's really his research, but he said that information is matter and dark matter. Information is dark matter, and what caused the fall of Atlantis or these other ancient civilizations in history is if you had an advanced civilization and that advanced civilization figured out how to accumulate a lot of information in mass in a certain area. If you're unknowing of the physics of information being dark matter being collected in a certain area, whether they were using crystals or whatever they were type of technology they were using, if you have too much dark matter centralized in a certain area on the Earth, it's going to cause physical or geophysical cataclysms naturally. So Jason Giorgiani wrote in one of his books that the reason why they're building space, well, I determined this, not him, but they're building space center. They're building data centers outside of, out there in the sky. I won't say space because I don't know. It's too much information. I just don't know. I'm gonna say I don't know. So they're building these data centers in the sky. I'll say that. And the reason B is if what Jason Giorgiani determined through his mathematics is that by the year 2000, like 200, that we would have enough data accumulated on this planet that'll be the size of the moon, right in the middle of Earth.
Damn.
And if that happened, that will cause a serious. So what would begin to happen? Everything metallic in your room will begin getting sucked out to these data centers around the world. So imagine you just sit down and chairs start flying through walls, and you're like, "What? This is the apocalypse! Like, what the H is going on?" It's physics because if information is dark matter, this is what's going to happen. And that will be the end pretty much of this regime. So, and by the way, within like a couple of years from that, it'll be the size of Earth. Like how much, if they don't stop it, then it'll be the size of Earth. Years, it'll be sped up and be years after that. So we have to understand that. That's probably what caused the first couple of resets. I mean, you know, they got heart. They got different weapons. They've already developed weapons that are very magical. The Hiroshima bomb, the Trinity bomb, or the Trinity testing was a magical ritual. It had nothing just to do with war or whatever they'll tell you. It was about magic. And those orders that I mentioned earlier, they sanctioned that, you know, up the chain. So anything that we see, a lot of people are predicting the Golden Gate Bridge, you know, the destruction of that. So there's a lot of things that's at play that has to happen within their strip so they can play these archetypes out and allow for these archonic intelligences to store order through chaos in a multitude of different ways.
Do you think they're trying to bring about biblical prophecy, a sort of apocalypse?
Yeah. The Sabbatean Frankists, so the original splitting of the Jews, they split in three different categories. You got your Orthodox Jew that follow Judaism, but then you got a Reformed Jew that doesn't identify with Judaism. They identify with just their bloodline or their mother's bloodline and being that. And then you have something called conservative Jew. The Sabbateans created the conservative and the reformed version of this so they could implement different races of the same Sabbatean, but it traces back to a form of Judaism. So it's still Jewish, but they're creating a almost a entity through multiple distinctive races. And these people are positioned in certain areas to bring about what the agenda is. So, but everyone will point the finger and say it's just, you know, the J word. But it's a orchestrated effort of what's called the scapegoat. And you have to learn about the scapegoat in Judaism. The word scapegoat literally comes from the story of Samael, where there's a story in the not the Torah, the Talmud, where they were going to replace all of the sins of the Israelites. They were going to. So what they try to do when people say predictive programming, I'm describing this. It's just hard to break this stuff down. When people say predictive programming, that they're trying to skip out on their karma. No, they're not trying to skip out on their karma. That's not what's happening. That's just what people that don't understand the occult will say. What they're trying to do is the Samael ritual, which is to transfer the sins of the Jews into the Gentiles by telling you what they're doing.
That's some mental gymnastics right there, man.
So there's three forms of karma. There's Sanchita karma, there's Paraba karma, and there's Kriyamana karma in Vedic text. So if you describe that, imagine me shooting a bow and arrow. Me pulling the bow on the arrow, that's Sanchita karma, the beginning state. Me releasing the arrow is the Paraba, and the Kriyamana is it hitting its target. That's the future. So the future, present, and the past types of karmas. They're trying to transfer the Kriyamana karma, the ending final result, over on us, to society. But they're not trying to skip out on it. They're transferring, they're literally giving us their sins. So it's not that they're skipping or they're what do they say? Whatever people make up, they're literally performing a ritual and they're transferring their sins to us. Wow. And that's called the original scapegoat ritual. That's where scapegoat comes into
Yeah.
play.
Wow, this is fascinating. Ani, we're going to definitely have to do this again. There is so much more we can get to. We barely scratched the surface on some of this stuff. Before I let you go, any final thoughts,
Mhm.
any projects for the year, anything upcoming exciting?
Well, yeah, we just finished the Year of the Fire Horse on Patreon. We go deep, 3 hour. We did a 5 hour video the other day.
Wow.
If people want to know the more intricacies of what I'm saying, and I just don't speak off the top of my head. I have organized notes, books, and things that I read through to actually show you what's going down. So I would tell people to look for it for the next video. We're going into Plato, Platonic surrealism on the next Patreon video. And I would advise for people to look at my YouTube. I just released How Did We Get Here? There's some information in there that's paralleling to what happened with Venezuela and the year of the fire horse, the Chinese year of the fire horse, and the connections with that. And I would say that's the main thing that I'm doing right now. Probably a couple of interviews lined up, but we definitely have to understand what is happening, why is it happening. The whole Venezuela thing is deliberately Sabbatean, and I point to where it comes from and everything.
Right
So
on.
you guys can check it out. They can follow me at patreon.com/THE_spiritual shade room. You'll know you're there if it says the True Occult Newspaper
Perfect.
on Patreon, and YouTube is at Ani Osaru. You see my name right there, and they can follow me on Instagram at the Spiritual Shade Room 1. That's where I post every day any main news that happen. I decode it with gematria, and I connect the Sabbatean or Moonchild relationship to it.
Awesome. Well, we got a great introduction to your work. Looking forward to going deeper next time. Thank you so much, Ani. I'll have your links easily accessible for everyone. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We will talk again tomorrow. We'll see y'all then. If you're looking to start your therapeutic microdosing journey, but don't know where to start, especially when looking for the highest quality ingredients, including nootropics, and what you'd expect from a true microdose capsule, check out our friends at Brainsupreme. They offer the absolute highest quality ingredients so you can start your microdosing journey knowing that you're getting top-notch ingredients. To find out more, visit their website using that link right in the description, and you can get 15% off your entire order. Hello, friends. I am so excited to tell you about Independent Media Token. Independent Media Token is a brand new way to show your support for independent media without having to donate a dime. Independent Media Token is a cryptocurrency on the Solana blockchain designed to generate funds to promote and foster the growth of independent content creators, allowing them to engage in their art without having to worry about being demonetized. Through a network of media partners, of which you yourself can become a part of, Independent Media Token's goal is to ensure the powers that be can never cut off all of our areas of funding and censor the only free voices left in the world. Join the movement today. You can pick up Independent Media Token using Phantom Wallet or the Solana wallet of your choice, where you can easily swap your Solana for IMT. Grab some IMT today and remember to always know your team. To learn more, visit independentmediatoken.com or use the link right in the description. Are you and your family prepared for an emergency? Maybe the fake alien invasion? Now is the time to prepare yourself and your family for any event. Check out Prep Starts Now. Their mission is to provide high-quality preparedness products that empower individuals and families to be ready for any situation. They're committed to delivering reliable, trusted gear to ensure your safety, security, and peace of mind in times of need. Their product selection is carefully curated to provide you with the essential gear you need to stay prepared. From emergency kits to tactical tools, every item is chosen for its reliability and practicality. Prep Starts Now understands the importance of family, and their goal is to equip you with everything you need to build a solid plan for your family's preparedness. In today's ever-changing world, being prepared is more important than ever, and Prep Starts Now is here to help you and your family stay ready with quality products and practical guidance. Use the link in the description and get 15% off your order.